belabor, so. There we go. Thank you, Josh.
It's very loud.
Yay.
It startles you.
Okay.
So go ahead, please introduce yourself to all of us and then we'll answer questions.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here, to speak with all of you. Sharon Owens, I am running for mayor of the city of Syracuse. This is my first election. I'm an appointed, individual and I am learning a lot as I go here. I'm running for mayor. I have, been in Syracuse since 1981, when I graduated from Syracuse University in 1985. The economics major on the university and had an opportunity to do an internship. I was on the women's track and field team and they were looking for athletes to intern at the Dunbar Center on South State Street. And I said, yeah, I'll go down there. And I just knew they were looking for a football or basketball player, but they got this little short track runner. But it was the moment that changed my perspective as far as what I wanted to do. I really believed that I was going to head down to Wall Street with my economics degree. And then I did that darn internship at the Dunbar Center and completely began becoming engaged with the community there, the friends there, the families there, and knew that working in the community is what I wanted to do. And so I began, finished school and decided to make Syracuse my home. I originate from the Think Lakes, but came here to go to SU. I'm looking to be mayor because I think that while there's comparisons about long-standing government experience, I think my experience on the ground in neighborhoods, in kitchens, in living rooms, in Head Start, working with preschoolers and their family, really positioned me to understand the on the ground needs of people and how government can assist those on the ground needs. It's how I left the last not-for-profit I worked for before I came into government was home headquarters. Really teaching first-time home buyer education and helping people improve their credit so they can create generational wealth home ownership. And it was at that time that Stephanie Miner recruited to come and be a deputy commissioner of neighborhood and business development on the housing side of things. And so at that time, if you all remember, we were in the foreclosure crisis too. So we were doing foreclosure prevention crisis intervention as well. And so it is, it was an amazing opportunity. And then Jesse Dowdell from the Southwest Community Center retired, and we never thought we would see that happen, but it did. And to me, it felt like going home, going back to not-for-profit work, swearing I would never come back to government, never say what you would never do. And really worked hard at Southwest with, it wasn't me, it was a team, it was a staff. It was in such dire straits, the agency was. People were like, oh, just fire everyone. And I said, no, you have to create a team. And so we did that, turned that agency around. It was in the red when I got there. It was absolutely in the black. We probably increased the budget by about $2.1 million. And really had it on firm ground. And then while I was in Miner's administration, my counterpart on the business development side was Ben Walsh. And so we were co-workers at that time. And so when he won his election, he said, Sharon, I think I would like you on my team. And I said, you know, I would love to come on your team. I've done the direct department thing. I really want to be able to take my community and government experience into policy development. And I thought that is where, and he said, I think I have the job for you. That's how I'm the deputy mayor. And I have been since the beginning of that administration. And we're we're about 7.25 years through. And so I'm here speaking to you all because I believe that I can bring some continuity and on all the things of the progress. When we think about progress in the city, we're looking at the physical progress that we're seeing. My heart goes back to the human service background I have, and my mission is to bring the human condition on parallel path with the parallel path with the physical growth of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so for those online, I'm gonna offer it up to you first. If any of you have questions, just take yourself off of mute. Going once. Going twice. Okay, anybody here? Questions?
I do.
Go for it.
You know, I would. First, I'd like to thank you for all the help you've been giving our street. From the hotel workers side of things, we don't have a lot of union hotels. And unfortunately, fortunately, part of any funding, public funding that goes to the hotels requires living peace agreements and, or at least neutrality when it comes to unionizing. We're gonna go back even further with Stephanie Meyer to Nick Puro. Whenever a hotel was being built in the county, one of his questions when the hotel people came to them was, have you talked to the union? So that this really isn't a question as much as a request.
Yes.
That when hotels are coming on board in the city and they come to the city for money, please ask for, have they spoken to Unite here or any union at that
And if I
point?
can just add to that, part of our city component of development in the city is the Syracuse Industrial Development Agency, the city side, and then there's the Onondaga County side. What we have done on the city side, working with Kathy Murphy and Ricky Brown, that board is really incorporate into those pilots, community benefit options within those pilots. So that as we're looking at the potential for pilot agreements and tax exemptions on projects, what is the community benefit that can also roll with it? I see absolutely the option, particularly hotels unionizing, creating a workforce that is supported by unions, one of those community benefits.
In addition to that, I know Unite here is looking to try and start hotel worker apprenticeship programs. Which would hopefully get more people involved in the job research.
If I can insert again, I think we have the model through Syracuse Guild, even though it's construction, because it really takes on the model of bringing on the experts in the field. So not having individuals who academically may know what hotel work is about, but people on the ground. So for Syracuse Build, our funding actually pays for building trades, union members to actually teach the apprenticeship, for the class. So the model is really going to the experts who know hotel work and making them a part of that training. So they're really adhered to and getting real on the ground training about what that work is all about. Not fear.
Thank you, Colin.
I'm gonna take just a little break, because Joe Farron from the Teamsters came in. Joe, you can take yourself off mute, just introduce yourself.
Hello, sorry I came in a little late. Joe Ference, Teamsters Local 1149, Principal Officer. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so Tori, go right ahead.
Okay. From the CSEA perspective, when the city conducted the salary study for MC positions, why did they not do the study for you?
I was hoping you were gonna ask that question.
Good.
So, as you all know, collective bargaining agreements, there are increases embedded in those agreements. So our union, collective bargaining employees in the unions would get those increases based on the collective bargaining agreement. Local 400 came to us and said, we want the same thing for, the union workers in to look at salary across the board. Corey and I went down and spoke with Steve Varner and his team down at DPW to discuss this. We came away with an agreement that we would insert into what is in the current budget, $250,000 to contract out for a compensation study. Steve and I, we all came to agreement, just like on the non-union side. It didn't mean that there would be wholesale increases or decreases. It meant it would give us a level playing field as to what is comparable salary, just like it did for the non-union side. That funding was inserted in the budget that we're now coming to an end to. It was the council that took that money out of the budget. And I'm sorry, it was Pat Hogan that led that charge. We had that money in the budget. Because we were approached by our employees about fair is fair, take a look at the union side and look at the compensation. When it comes to compensation from the city all across the board, we are outpaid by the county and the school district. So, we absolutely honored that agreement with, Steve and that team and put that money in the budget, and it was taken out.
Okay, thank you. And but certainly not least, what is your position on residency requirements for city?
I am a supporter of residency requirement. I believe that, there were certain circumstances, like we were having a lot of trouble finding mechanics, for example, big rig mechanics. So there are circumstances when we may say, for this particular, position, because we're having a hard time, finding individuals, can that be waived? We approached the council about that. They said no, but I am a supporter of residency. I believe that if you work for the city, you should, you get a check from the city, you should work living in the city and supporting our tax base, which woefully needs to maintain itself. Because, 49% of us support 100% of the need. Lifeguards are another group that we sensitively a little bit decided by. And the teachers have been helping a lot in that. Some of them have been coming.
Is there still an appeals process?
Yes. If there's an individual. We had a couple, staff people who, had a family member that was sick, so they needed to, live just, and most of the time it's totally, right outside the city. So there is an appeals process. But fundamentally, there's a residency requirements, except for fire, except for 5 years. And that's what's in the.
Firefighters down to
5 years.
Police fire,
Fire has been 5 years for a while.
police fire sanitation were exempt by state law. And then a few years back, the firefighters negotiated a 5-year residence requirement for new hires. So I'm not sure when that expires.
I think it's renegotiated the contracts. When we came into office, we had 9 collective bargaining. We're trying to stagger them now so that we don't have to renegotiate 9 at the same time. And police, the last contract included the 5-year residency, which I intend to uphold.
Well, it's interesting. Mark and I were talking earlier. My nephew was a NYPD and his roommate was NYF team. And they both had to live in the city, which is interesting because, well, the fire has to live in the city, police have to live either in the city or contiguous counties.
Yeah, the after 5 years, there's the exemption, the state exemption. So they don't necessarily have to live in Onondaga County, but after the 5 years. Most of them live, if the police live in Tip Hill, so they're in the, they're in the. We do not have a residency required for laterals. Because many of them, their kids are already established in school. And it really is an opportunity for us to get more seasoned police firemen to come into the city to help as we recruit. It is like a bucket with a hole in it. So, we continue, we've been having ongoing, not as much fire as police, just constant classes, but we have retirements at the other end of the bucket. So I would, as mayor, continue, we have to have fully enrolled police body. They're critical to our state.
You're done. Jeffy Guy? No, just a counter on the last round of questioning. Have you seen a decrease in candidates for police and fire since the residency requirement?
Not fire. Police, I would say, overall, so you know well that, well, you all, that the county operates the civil service process. One thing about that civil service process, particularly for both police and fire, but absolutely for police, is that all municipalities looking for law enforcement go from that same list. So depending on when we're holding the class, the county gets us every time. They get to the list first, they get the individuals in first. I believe that part of that, Chief Cecil in the last budget hearing said that that list never goes over 100 anymore. And I think that is after 2020 and George Floyd, that people just did not see, in particular, policing. Fire is not having this issue, but in particular, policing as a career they want to pursue. And that's the challenge to us, to help this next generation of individuals understand the honorable role that police have and the important role they have in our community. And so the onus of attracting that next generation is absolutely on us to make it attractive. So I don't put it all on the shoulders of residency. I think it was a perfect storm of 2020. And the other thing about public service, particularly public safety, was COVID was rough for fire. And I mean, the fire department was running ambulances and everybody that was sick and needed to go to the hospital. Firefighters were sitting in emergency rooms waiting. And I just think that really, it wore all of us out, but fire, police, ambulance, DPW, they never, the pedal was on the metal the whole time to 2020. And then you had the social voices out there as well. So a lot going on.
Now, in your questionnaire, you talked about the county civil service. Is there a way to have the city do their own? I mean, I know with the CRB stuff, it was horrible trying to get like a job description that didn't change, and the county wanted a new job description, and they wanted new, and it's like,
Are they gonna post the?
right, and they don't even communicate back with the city on.
There is a model in Rochester, they have their own civil service process. It would take us vastly increasing the HR department to raise the budget. So it's a catch-22, but there is a model that you can follow out of budget.
And you support that?
I do. And it's not just police and fire, it's
That's all.
it's-
That's right.
And be honest, there are some positions that just because you test top 5 on an exam doesn't mean you're the best person for the job.
Right.
In code enforcement, when Ken Townsend was there as director, he really pushed for initiatives for us to be able to hire people based on their knowledge of the neighborhood. As opposed, we can teach the skill. We can't teach you community service and customer service.
Awesome.
All right, online, Mike Lyon, can you take yourself off of mute and just introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Mike Lyon. I'm part of the exec board here, also member of UUP at Upstate.
Awesome. And so,
Past president of the UUP chapter at Upstate.
Thank you.
and avid biker. So it's gonna be bicycles everywhere. Anybody online have any questions? Diane, you or your cat? I saw your cat.
I tried to keep him out, but he's just, no, I'm good, thank you.
I turned to you, I saw my side profile and it scared me, so.
Actually, I have a question.
Okay.
Because one thing that our labor council, because, unless a city union, has an issue with the city, a lot of times we don't get involved with city politics. But one thing we did do over 20 years ago was pass a living wage ordinance, which was to address kind of procurement in the city. It was one of the few levers we had. So basically the idea was that tax dollars should be supporting property wages. But, the the controller, the city auditors came out with a report saying that it really hasn't been implemented. So as mayor, how would you?
Well, first of all, we would dust it off and make sure it's meeting, 21st century standards for, as we talked about, the procedures of hiring. Feature now wages. Our minimum wage at the city is $15,000, 79, we established that. But it has, prior to Ben Walsh, prior to Stephanie Meyer, it just has never.
Go back to fiscal.
And, right, and so, it needs to be dusted off. Similar in a not similar way, but you know, the issues we're having with the CRB is, you know, taking a look at the ordinances of was written, ensuring that it's meeting 20. In the case of the wage ordinance, it would be the city, in the case of the CRB, it should be the board doing that work.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just like say just a history, because I mean, Driscoll was kind of forced to sign it. He never wanted to, and he had to be sued in order for him to even start implementing it. You know, there was a worker and there was pro bono legal in town from the actually labor attorneys who took it on and won the case. Actually, Judge Doherty was the one that sits in city advocating to do this, but you know, it kind of is languished. And but you know, through that, through Driscoll Minor,
Right.
you know, and this administration. So, so we would like to be a partner on that and trying to help, you know, identify that. And like you said, things have changed.
Yeah.
You know, Local 200 United, the other SEIU local in town, they used to have people in the parking lots, and then those don't really exist anymore. We used to do a credit card. So things have changed, but there are other ways that, you know, workers that would, and what it really does for all of us, it sets a floor in the service sector. Like in the building trades, how they have their prevailing rates and kind of prevailing rates. Okay, and then the only thing I have, if nobody else has anything, yeah, I liked your answer on housing, specifically good cause, because that is a, you know, something that our labor council has taken on as an issue. And it came out of actually the graduate student organizing up at Syracuse University. The big issue that everybody said, even above wages, was housing. You know, so, and I know this is an area that you have a lot of expertise in, but I don't know if you want to go beyond some of the things you talked about here as far as like housing and how to deal with that in this area.
Yeah, 10 years ago, no one would have ever thought that it would be at 98% occupancy downtown. And the rents that were, the apartment building, the old NYMEX building across the street from us, those rents are $2,000 up to $4,000. And pay it.
Yeah.
I am very proud of our local zoning ordinance that we enacted. Council approved that we enacted it on Kearney. God love them, did yeoman's work on that. It really establishes a standard of affordable units that you develop. Like the hotel rooms or affordable units will be in there. Outside of that, you would be priced out with downtown. The only affordable, fully affordable housing downtown is Clinton Plaza. And that's it. And now South City Market that is not fully, but has, is the model. I love using that as a model. So when developers say you can't make the numbers work, yes, you can. Look at South City Market. My daughter lives there. I can't get her room or buy a house because she loves to live downtown. It is the built housing. So, and the other thing about Syracuse is we are the only municipality that has inclusive zone, that allows for shelters, that allows for assisted, not assisted living, but supported housing, allows for LIHTC, low income housing tax credit housing. We are the only municipality in Onondaga County doing this. Manlius is working towards, we've adopted ADUs as part of our zoning. I have a son with a developmental disability, he's in the autistic spectrum. He's 25 now, and he's a young man, and this is the evolution of my life now, of raising a young man in the spectrum now. So I want him to have his independence, but I'm not ready to let him go. And so he has, you know how you most of our houses when you grew up, you had the living room that nobody went into, cleans the company, and then you have the family. Well, he has commandeered the family. but it has an exterior door, it's plumbed. So with the ADU zoning now, convert that. I can convert my garage. I can convert my backyard into a smaller, even like tiny home for him if I wanted to, because it gives me that housing flexibility. We've always, for too long, you did multi-use or you did single family. Now we have the ability to do townhomes, which I couldn't believe until we were revamping rezone, that you actually couldn't build townhomes in Syracuse. We can build ADUs now. The Lafayette Golf Course development that's going to happen. I can't remember the last time we had that kind of development in the city. There and SDC on the west side near the city. So it's gonna be a combination of senior, of LIHTC, of single family or townhomes, home headquarters and apartment. I have to say that initially the preferred option for that location from the district councilor and some of the neighbors was a single family cul-de-sac. We don't have cul-de-sacs in the city. We're a neighborhood of connectivity around sidewalks and streets and biking lanes and the like. So I think the plan we have up there now is a plan that's gonna be real good.
All right, last call. Anybody have any questions?
I just wanted to know about your interactions with the Syracuse Housing Authority.
Yes, sir. It has been a tough road to hoe. Just some background, Michael is the owner and manager of the footprint of Pioneer Homes, McKinney Manor, and Central Village is the housing authority. So we were able to, after missing out one time, we were able to secure $50 million towards the redevelopment in the area. It's $1 billion project over the course of all three of those development areas. That housing needs to be brought up into 21st century standards. No doubt about it. The difficulty about where we are right now is that none of us have done $1 billion housing project yet. So the reality of the matter is that the housing authority does not have capacity in this area. That doesn't mean that they don't have capacity in all areas, but in this area, and I just feel there's been some pushback in bringing in expertise that we all can benefit from in getting that project done. And the most important part of that is not about new buildings, it's about better housing for the people who have lived generationally in that footprint. I know several of the board members, I think we're getting some movement in increasing the capacity there. Michael, I'm gonna, be perfectly honest. I believe that it's time for some new leadership. I think, honor to Mr. Simmons for, I think, 25 years there now, but I think it's time for a transition in this arena that we're in right now to benefit the residents there. I'm also the president of Blueprint 15. And so we had lined up our financial package to build that Children Rising Center. And delays, and there were delays, have caused us to have to pause that. I have not given up on that project. The residents of that community envisioned what the components of that project would be. And so I am fully committed. My colleague, my opponents in this race will say that we dropped the ball. It is easier to sit on the proverbial couch with the proverbial beverage and shout at the coach and the players when you're looking at it from a distance. But when you're in the nitty gritty of a very complicated project, it's not just building, it's relocating tenants in a way that is nurturing and adhering to their needs above all else. And so we're gonna keep moving it through. This is probably one area that one area that the mayor and I kind of differ on. I saw this train coming 2 years ago and said, we got a problem. We got the money, we have a problem with capacity at the house.
All right, anyone else with a question?
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course you can.
Please. What about kids? No.
Well, right? That's what I'm gonna ask. So, I mean, we've tried to partner the district, us, with the city to the mayor's office to help curb the behaviors and the violence that happens within our community and then comes into our schools, as well as working with the community and our families to value education, to get our kids to school, right? And also they're participating because they want to value their education. Do you have any changes, any thoughts on how we can enhance that partnership and continue to make our streets and our schools safer?
Well, I think, particularly for the most severe violence in our community, which is gun violence and aggressive violence, whether it be gun violence or using a weapon. I think, one of the great things that, Tony Davis did was bring on Frank Fowler. He has a line of sight to, what's going on still, even though he's not the police chief in the neighborhoods, working with, Pastor Chief Johnson Kinsey for, the mayor's office to reduce gun violence. It is absolutely, schools have to be safe. And not only in the schools, but in the neighborhoods where most of the dynamics of the neighborhood spill into the schools, it is the proverbial 10%. And so really focusing in on that 10% to identify what is driving their behavior. And the reality of the matter that many people don't like to hear is that one thing that came out of COVID is that we do know how to teach virtually. It is not the best and the first option, but we do know how to. When I was at Southwest Community Center, we had 4 young people who were engaged in violent activity. We started a program there where we did virtual learning there. Mainly because, and I learned this through the process, they didn't have enough credits to move forward beyond the 9th grade into the various upper echelons of the grade. So we brought them into Southwest with district teachers who would teach them at their level virtually at their own pace. For example, we would be in there and I said, look, just get here by 10 o'clock. I don't care if you're here at 7, 8 o'clock. I just need your butt in the seat so we can teach you. And the best result of that was that their ability to return, and that's the ultimate goal, return back to the classroom. But we need to, first of all, make sure that you're learning first and you're understanding with some of the mentoring and some of the social work that was going on, the behavior that is expected while you're there. And what do you do appropriately in a school setting? I grew up in a household that my mom would say, it is not your job to go to the school and, quote unquote, defend yourself. That's my job. And my job is to go and to work with our teachers. I learned that through my son, and all of the special education he got through the district, from elementary at Elmwood to Ed Smith. And when he had to go to Nottingham, I was terrified. Not because of Nottingham, just because this was my baby going to Nottingham. But we surrounded him with services. And he was that kid. He was that elementary school kid that ran out of the classroom, that bit teachers. I apologize in retrospect, that did all of that. But it was my job, to your point, to understand that the teachers were there to help him, I think a lot of the things that you see with parents is because they don't know any other experience than the one they had. And so how can we help them see a different experience and a different relationship with teachers and social workers and nursing staff in the schools, that the relationship with schools can be beyond now that you're a parent, not your experience as a child with your family. I hope I answered your question. It was long. It's a complicated situation.
It is. I agree. And I'm a special education teacher. So listen, my
Salt of the earth people.
my love of my children, my neurodiverse children.
Yeah. And my son graduated from Nottingham and got his associates from OCC. Now he's been gap yearing it for 2 years, but it's all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that'll be the last question, so, any closing thoughts, for us?
I just thank you for the opportunity. I really believe that, we're on a trajectory of some promise in our city for a long time. And I believe that. I don't sit back and say everything that's wrong. I have very clear, sober eyes of the challenges we have, including poverty, which is an economic problem. What we address are the residuals for housing choice, for nutrition choice. But the crux of poverty is foundationally financial. And how do we change that? Good jobs, family sustaining jobs. Micron, the 81 project, all the other residual opportunities, bring that opportunity for good paid jobs. But it's just not gonna happen. We have to make it happen. Increasingly helping young people understand that municipal work is actually pretty good. Being a firefighter, being a police officer, working for DPW, you get a good wage that I know can be better. But you have health benefits, you get a pension, all of those things that many people in our community do not have.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Carol.